Hey everyone, and welcome back to Exposed Scandalous Files of the Elite. I am your host, Jim Chapman. And before we get into today's episode, I want to shout out our newest global celebrity member. Mark is from San Tan Valley, Arizona, which has a very interesting recent history. The area prior to the year 2000 was almost all desert. However, in just 25 years, that desert has grown to become one of the largest unincorporated areas of Arizona, with over 100,000 people calling the San Tan Valley home. Pretty mind-boggling to think that in the year 2000, this was all just desert out there. So welcome to the global celebrity tier, Mark, and thank you so much for your support. Now, do I have a hell of a story to tell you today? This story has been an ultra trending topic, if there's such a thing, on TikTok as of late, due to a lawsuit that was recently filed, and a listener reached out and inquired as to whether I was aware of this case, which honestly I was not. So I looked into it, and damn, buckle up is all I can say. So I'm going to tell you the story and what is alleged on both sides of this lawsuit, and I would love to know what your thoughts are. Who do you think is right on this one? So on October 4th of 2024, a lawsuit was filed by a company. In this case, The Other Woman and the Wife LLC, against a woman by the name of Kristen Jacobs. And in this lawsuit, The Other Woman LLC is suing and alleging that Kristen Jacobs committed tortious interference with both a contract agreement and also in business relationships. So really two separate accusations here. Before we go any further, let me explain what tortious interference is. Now, in layman's terms, it's when a third party affects a business relationship or a contractual relationship that leads to the loss of revenue for the company. In this case, The Other Woman LLC is alleging both occurred as it relates to Kristen Jacobs. Let me tell you a little bit about The Other Woman and the Wife LLC and the founder of that company, Chelsea Smallwood. So Chelsea founded The Other Woman and the Wife in 2022. Now, before that, she worked in the energy sector as a supply chain manager. And just before founding The Other Woman and the Wife LLC, she actually worked for Meta, Facebook. But it doesn't look like, from what I could find, that she worked there very long. Now, she graduated with an economics degree in 2010 from California State University, Northridge, and she lives in California. So I give you all that information about her education because it's relevant. It's relevant because through The Other Woman and the Wife LLC, she promotes herself as a life coach. So what is The Other Woman in the Wife LLC, and how does it relate to being a life coach? Well, as far as I can tell, it's a website/community where women who are in a adulterous relationship, or maybe getting out of an adulterous relationship, or maybe they're considering an adulterous relationship, they can be amongst their peers, so to speak, other cheaters, for lack of a better word. Think of it as a safe place for cheaters where they can get supportive advice from those who have been there or are in that situation themselves. Almost a 360 of what you would imagine, right? Typically, you would think there would be a community out there for people that have been cheated on. Well, this is a community for the cheaters. As a matter of fact, Chelsea herself was quoted as saying of her community, quote, "My business is ultimately intended to provide relief and the ability to learn new life skills to those who have made the choice to cheat," unquote. I mean, that is just so bizarre to me to normalize it like that. Now, they offer a community platform. They do weekend retreats. Chelsea has a podcast. Hell, Chelsea even offers, from what I understand, some pretty expensive coaching one-on-one, should you seek it out. So, as I told you just a minute ago, nowhere in her background does she have any formal degree as it relates to therapy, or even a formal background working in an industry like that. So what makes her the chick you want to talk to? The chick who can coach you and make you feel better about committing adultery. She is a cheater herself. She's been there, done that, actually got married to the guy she was cheating with after he left his wife in another country for her, allegedly. And she makes no bones about it, promotes it. Hell, she seems proud of it. So much so that she has gained some 83,000 TikTok followers. So she has an audience, as crazy as that may sound. And her company is a private company. So I can't tell necessarily how successful it is, but apparently she must be doing pretty well. Now, I'm not here to morally judge anyone. I mean, what you do in your marriage is your business, as far as I'm concerned. It's not illegal to cheat. Maybe questionable morally, but you're not going to go to jail for it. But what if you make someone's personal, private business public? What if you just blast a person on TikTok? Well, in a countersuit, that's exactly what Kristen alleges Chelsea Smallwood did. So as the saying goes, there are three sides to every story, and the truth is usually somewhere in the middle. So let's get into it. And we're going to start with the other woman's side of things. So in a nutshell, fortunately, in one of her podcasts, Chelsea discusses this. Now, she does not name Kristen directly, but you can easily read between the lines. And if you do, like I did, she mentions that she woke up to a text one day. And the text was basically, "Did you see this?" quote unquote. And it was a screenshot of a website that had been built. And through this website, someone was exposing all of these people who were members of the other woman and the wife, the website / community, which I'm just going to say, if that is true, that is really bad. No matter how pissed you are at someone, it's not cool to expose a shitload of people you have never met, which is called doxing, incidentally. You know nothing about their story and put them out to the world with malicious intent. Not necessarily someone that has personally done you wrong, but total strangers. I mean, maybe they were in an abusive relationship. Maybe they had a spouse that was cool with them cheating. Whatever. That is fucked up, in my view, if that's true. But through all of that, Chelsea had to shut the other woman and the Wife LLC down to obviously keep more of these people from getting exposed. And that is the, I guess, legs of her lawsuit, which, and I want to make this clear, this is Chelsea's allegations. Not saying this is true. Chelsea is alleging some sort of website was built where all these people were being exposed. My point is, two wrongs don't make a right. And if Kristen did in fact do that, and I'm not saying she did, this is just what's alleged, then that is just as wrong as what was being done to her. If that were the case, I hope it's not, but we'll move on. So the website shuts down because these names have now gotten out there. And this is all allegedly, right? This is Chelsea Smallwood's side of it. And if that's in fact the case, it would definitely have cost her business. Because if you're a cheater and you know someone has gone rogue and infiltrated the group of cheaters and they're exposing them, you ain't joining once you hear that. So there is revenue loss there, and it's easily provable. So allegedly, Kristen signs up for the membership. Let me tell you how it got to this doxing part, and this is all allegedly. This isn't Jim Chapman accusing Kristen of this. This is Chelsea Smallwood's lawsuit. But allegedly, Kristen signs up for this membership, and there is a whole story on what led her into that, and we'll get into it. So she signs up under a fictitious name and discovers all this personal shit about her husband cheating on this site, like intimate details, etc. And she garners information from the person, get ready for this, from the person who was actually cheating with her husband, because she was talking to this person pretending to be someone else, pretending to be a fellow cheater, if you will. So Chelsea, through some detective work, fast forward, she gets that text. She sees there's this rogue website up exposing people that are in her community. Through detective work, she discovers that Kristen is behind the whole thing. And the way she discovered that is, although Kristen signed up under a fictitious name, when she paid the bill, put her credit card information in, she had to put her actual credit card information. And she was able to link that together and figure out that that's who this was. So she files that lawsuit, obviously. Now, if you're like me, you want to give some high fives to Kristen, like, go girl, good thinking, signing up under a fake name and finding out all this information. So Kristen gets this suit and she has to answer it. And she does with a countersuit. And wait till you hear this. And incidentally, before we get into it, the person that was cheating with Kristen's husband was actually her neighbor and very good, if not best friend, named Olivia. So when you hear me refer to Olivia while I'm going through this lawsuit, that's who I'm talking about. And it starts out Olivia's abuse of Kristen. Third-party defendant, Olivia Nicodemus, and I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, is Kristen's neighbor. And until August of 2023, Kristen considered Olivia to be a close friend and confidant. In the spring of 2023, Kristen confided in Olivia that she believed her husband was engaged in an affair. Around that same time, Kristen began to see a therapist for counseling on her concerns about an extramarital affair. By the summer of 2023, Kristen was suspicious that Olivia was the other woman, and she confronted Olivia with her suspicions. Olivia denied the accusation. Under the guise of trying to find a therapist for herself, Olivia asked Kristen for the contact information for Kristen's therapist. Kristen provided that information and Olivia visited the therapist. However, instead of seeking professional services for herself, Olivia attempted to convince the therapist that she was not participating in an affair with Kristen's husband. Olivia lied to Kristen's therapist in order to continue the affair and to interfere in Kristen's treatment. Now, before I go any further, I don't know how Kristen could know that, because that's a major HIPAA violation if her therapist actually told Kristen anything about. She can't even tell Kristen that Olivia is visiting her. Now, Olivia may have mentioned that to Kristen and said, yeah, I'm actually seeing the same therapist when she was running this game with Kristen on her husband. But how would she know that Olivia lied to Kristen's therapist? She's not going to know that. The therapist isn't going to say that. She'd lose her license. That's a major HIPAA violation. You can't talk about other patients. In August of 2023, Kristen confirmed her worst suspicions. After months of Olivia's gaslighting, she learned that her husband was engaged in an affair with Olivia. By August 25th of 2023, the affair had ended. On or about September 11th of 2023, Kristen discovered a video on TikTok that was created by Chelsea Smallwood and disclosed intimate details about the affair. Specifically, Chelsea read a text conversation between Kristen and Olivia and depicted Kristen, the victim of the affair, in a negative and false light. Kristen considered the affair to be a private and personal matter, and the affair was not publicly known. After viewing the video, Kristen soon learned of the defendant, TOW, the other woman's, private online community for women affected by infidelity. Kristen joined the private community anonymously. In doing so, she relied on the frequently asked questions section, which provides for anonymity by allowing members to join without use of their real name while paying the subscription fee with their actual name and credit card information. Now, when joining the online community, its members, Kristen and Olivia, agreed that the following conduct is prohibited. And then it goes into harass, threaten, demean, embarrass, bully, or otherwise harm any user of the community and use the community for any illegal purpose in violation of local, state, national, or international law. And it goes on. It says immediately upon joining the TOW's private community, Kristen learned that Olivia shared private and intimate details of her affair with Kristen's husband, including that Olivia engaged in intimate moments while Kristen was asleep in the same room, and that Olivia used Kristen's sex toys while Kristen was away for work. These disclosures began in at least March of 2023 and are included, but not limited to, conversations between Kristen and Olivia discussing the affair. Olivia also shared private and personal information about Kristen that she had learned because Kristen considered Olivia to be a close friend, including intimate details about the relationship with her husband and results of a test for STDs. And I'm not really sure what that is in relation to. Again, I derived that Kristen, after she found out her husband was having an affair, went and got tested for an STD, which is a good idea. In addition to sharing private and intimate details of the affair, Olivia shared photographs of Kristen's family, including her minor child and information about where Kristen and her family live. Third-party defendant Olivia also revealed through her postings that she was spying on Kristen. In one post on the website, Olivia boasted of using binoculars to spy on an intimate sexual moment that Kristen and her husband shared within the privacy of their private property. That could be an issue. That sounds like voyeurism. Third-party defendant Olivia used TOW's community to cast Kristen in a false and negative light to justify her betrayal. For example, Olivia falsely identified Kristen as a member of a throuple, which, y'all, a throuple is a relationship between three people, and falsely stated that Kristen has a sexually transmitted disease. Chelsea did not make any effort to protect Kristen's or her family's identity. Chelsea's videos and posts were seen by members of Kristen's community. Upon information and belief, TOW profits from engagement on its social media pages. Stated differently, TOW used Kristen's trauma as clickbait to encourage interaction with TOW's TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram pages. Everybody needs to know this. When you write a text to anybody, and you hit send, it is no longer private. Period. It is no longer private. I don't care if you say, keep this between me and you. Once you hit send, that is considered in the eyes of the law, you are making that public, because that person you sent that text to has just as much ownership to that information as you do at that point. And if they choose to share it, it's not illegal. Where it becomes illegal is if you send a nude picture to somebody, or somebody gets a nude picture and they share it with somebody else, and then that person, even a third party, makes it public. In cases like that, it's illegal. But sharing a text, no matter how personal it might be to the person outside of nudity, is totally legal. We'll move on. Chelsea made these posts maliciously and with reckless disregard to the privacy rights of Kristen. As a result of the defendant's relentless campaign to harass and threaten Kristen on social media, Kristen continued to receive treatment for the severe emotional and mental distress caused by the malicious acts. The lawsuit goes on. The other woman and Chelsea threatened Kristen. Incredibly, in November of 2023, Chelsea sent an email accusing Kristen of engaging in harassing behavior and threatening legal action if she did not cease. Basically, she sent a cease and desist letter. In another email, Kristen was falsely accused of misappropriating TOW's intellectual property. I would need context to know what they're talking about there. Through TOW's social media pages, Chelsea falsely accused Kristen of bullying, doxing, and creating fake accounts to harass members of the community. In addition, Chelsea sent Kristen's therapist a letter containing the same false and disparaging information about Kristen in an effort to interfere with the medical treatment and counseling Kristen sought in response to the defendant's harassment and online bullying. In response to Chelsea's threats, Kristen requested that information identifying herself and her family be removed from the community and social media. Definitely reasonable, definitely needed to be done. Kristen also informed Chelsea of Olivia's threats and harassment on the community. Chelsea refused to remove the content and did not investigate Olivia's behavior on the other woman. Instead, Chelsea and the other woman continued their malicious conduct with utter disregard for Kristen's privacy and mental condition. For example, in January of 2024, Chelsea made a video bragging of contacting Kristen's therapist and provided one of her followers with the therapist's contact information and accused Kristen of creating fake accounts to harass Chelsea. As a result of Chelsea and TOW's social media posts, Kristen has received threatening messages from Chelsea's community and has since had to remove the comment feature from her social media and make her social media pages private. As a direct and proximate result of defendant's malicious bullying, harassment, and false representations, Kristen experiences mental and physical suffering as well as harm to her reputation. And Kristen is suing for a conglomerate of things, including tortious interference, breach of the contract, invasion of privacy, false light, intrusion of privacy, invasion of privacy for publications, slander, intentional infliction of emotional distress, telecommunications harassment, libel, and defamation. 10 different causes of action. Oh, and something I have not told you yet. It seems Olivia, the chick that was sleeping with Kristen's husband, get this, is a life coach for Chelsea's company, the other woman in the Wife LLC. Unbelievable. Let's sum this shit up. Basically, according to Kristen's lawsuit, Olivia boasts about not only sleeping with Kristen's husband, but also using binoculars to watch them have sex and using Kristen's sex toys on herself, as well as being a member of the community where she was sharing information and pictures with others, including family pictures of Kristen's. Now, what sparked all this? Well, Kristen was searching on TikTok, apparently looking for TikToks on infidelity and things like that. And she came across that text that Chelsea Smallwood read verbatim. That was a text that she was sending to her bestie, who ended up being the person who was cheating with her husband. Pretty crazy. She goes to investigate that, joins the site under an assumed name, and the mess begins, right? Now, earlier I mentioned that Chelsea had to pull down her site because of all these people who honestly had nothing to do with anything going on with Kristen and Olivia. They got exposed. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that. But first, here is a clip of Chelsea discussing just that shortly after it happened on her podcast.
I feel as though something that I created to be helpful to society was harmful when it was in the hands of someone that it wasn't intended for. That is awful. And I am so very sorry that anything I created had a negative impact on anybody. My intention was never to put anyone in danger with this venture. And while my intent was not that, certainly the impact was. So I'm a little bit devastated.
Now, all of that was in reference to a website that was put up in January called Exposing the Other Woman and the Wife.com. It's been taken down now. It doesn't exist, and no one, including myself, apparently has been able to figure out who put it up. I do want to say and go on record that I'm totally against that. It may seem like a cool kind of vigilante thing to do, get back at all these people, but you're not just exposing cheaters, you're exposing families. You could technically cost someone their life. I cover crime on this podcast and other podcasts that I do, and it's nothing to play with. It's really not. You never know who you're dealing with. That, in my opinion, was a step too far, and I don't think it was right. May seem cool, may seem kind of vigilante, but at the end of the day, you're hurting people that aren't involved in your direct situation, and it seems like kind of a payback thing. Now, no one has been able to link this to Kristen, whether she had anything to do with it. Nobody knows, but eventually it's going to come out because somebody had to buy that URL. And I'm sure in discovery, an investigator is going to be able to get to the bottom of that. And of course, I'll keep you posted. And I want to reference a TikTok real quick, and I'm not sure whose actual TikTok this was under, but they were referencing this case. Audrey Pepper says they cheat down someone with lower self-esteem, willing to accept crumbs and never be the priority. Also, she's usually less attractive. And guess who comments back? She just couldn't stand it. Olivia Nicodemus. She couldn't stand not to comment back because somebody was, I guess, saying that Kristen was more attractive than her. And she says, would you like to see some side-by-side comparison photos? What a bitch. That's all I can say. In my opinion, that was a bitch comment to say back, especially when you're the other woman. But I'll say this. I've seen pictures of you and Kristen, and I think she's way more attractive than you are. That's my opinion on it, Olivia. So get over yourself. You're not that hot. Sorry. To me, this seems like a girl that's just really, really hurt and has absolutely lost her mind here. I don't know the truth of everything that happened. I know one thing. She got fucked over big time. I hate it that her husband, it seems like, is getting away scot-free on this whole deal. Nobody's suing him. I think that, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And this is just my opinion. Again, I don't know these people. I don't have any direct knowledge. So let me say this, and then I'll just wrap this up. Miss Kristen Jacobs, I feel horrible for this woman. I don't blame her for doing everything she can once these texts got out and once all this information on her got out against Chelsea Smallwood and Olivia Nicodemus. I don't think they're good people. That's just my opinion. My heart goes out to her for everything she's been through, and I hope she can find some peace at the end of all of this. Legalese. I gotta say, everything I've talked about today is my opinion. Everything I talked about today is a matter of public record. As it is in the United States, everyone is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. But anything I have said outside of the actual lawsuit is Jim Chapman's opinion only. But I would like to know your opinion. What do you think about all this? Check out the Facebook page, Exposed Scandalous Files of the Elite on Facebook. Leave a comment in the post where I posted this podcast and tell me what you think. Also, I'm going to shout out someone who has done a phenomenal job, really, of covering this even before I started looking into it. And I'm going to give you her Instagram. It's _dadvocate, IG. DADVOCATEIG. As a matter of fact, I'll link her Instagram in the show notes of this podcast. Go check her out. She does a great job of covering this. I did reach out to her via email to see if I could set up an interview with her and just kind of get her thoughts on this case. She knows it very, very well, but I haven't got a response back yet. So I believe her name is Lauren, Miss Lauren. Somebody send her a message and tell her, hey, you need to go on Exposed Scandalous Files of the Elite and you and Jim need to talk shit about this case. Let's get her on. So that's it. I appreciate all of you for listening, supporting. Check us out on Patreon. I keep that sumbitch active. And we have some bonus episodes headed your way shortly. Commercial-free early releases, of course, of every episode we drop and all kinds of other extras. I'm going to upload this particular lawsuit to the Patreon, as a matter of fact. Also, until next time, for Exposed Scandalous Files of the Elite, I'm your host, Jim Chapman. Much love.